About 3 weeks ago, our dairy cow, Dolly, she's a Jersey, she finally had her calf, and he's doing great. Dolly's doing great. They're both doing really good. But now we're dealing with all the milk, and it's honestly not been that hard. A lot of people have been wanting to try it, like all of my brothers, my mom. So we've been giving some to them so that they can try it. And my mom's made cheeses and yogurts and stuff. So now that everybody's kind of slowed down on wanting some, I'm going to try and make some cottage cheese today and mozzarella cheese. I've never made any cheese before. I have made yogurt before, but I've never made cottage cheese or mozzarella. So the past couple weeks I've been researching and trying to figure out what cheeses I wanted to start with, and I decided on the simpler cheeses and just kind of work my way up, just because the hard cheeses are a little bit intimidating, but also I do not have the cultures and the rennet and stuff yet, so I need to get some animal rennet and then also the cultures so I can make some hard cheeses. But I need to figure out exactly which ones are going to taste closest to store-bought. I'm not really sure if I'll ever achieve that, but just where we've eaten store-bought cheeses for so long, it is going to be a bit of an adjustment for us, and we're open to trying it, but we really like that store-bought taste, so I'm hoping we can adjust ourselves over time. Maybe whenever we make meals or something, do half store-bought cheese and half homemade until we can eventually get into all homemade. So it'll be a process, but like I said, today we're going to start with the cottage cheese and the mozzarella. And so I'm walking into this with only the research that I know. So this is not really going to be a how-to video. I'm just going to bring you guys along as I make cheese, but I'm just starting with what I have. These are really simple cheeses, and essentially all I need is the Dutch oven, thermometer, raw milk, of course, vinegar, some gloves, and you don't have to have raw milk. You can do this with pasteurized milk, just not ultra pasteurized. So if you're wanting to try this at home and you don't have access to raw milk, I know I have a lot of followers from Kentucky, and it's actually illegal to sell milk in the state of Kentucky, raw milk anyways. So you can get onto a herd share, but it is so expensive. Me and Ben looked into doing it last spring, and to join you have to pay $150, and that's just to buy into owning the cow essentially. So that's how the herd shares do it. You buy into owning the cow. And then it was $10 every single week, and you had to buy at least 1 gallon of milk, which was $10. So that's where your $10 went. But it was just something that was out of our price range at the time, and it can be very pricey. But if you're open to that, and if you have one closer, our closest one was like 45 minutes away. So I was not willing to drive the 45 minutes one way just to get a gallon of milk. But that is an option. But like I said, you can use pasteurized milk, just not ultra pasteurized. So the past few weeks, like I said, I've been doing a ton of research and watching videos, reading blog posts, trying to figure out if I needed to get a culture. And with the mozzarella, I'm just going to use vinegar. I'm actually going to make both of them in a Dutch oven. So I'm going to start with the mozzarella. And then the cottage cheese, I really have no idea if it's going to work, because last night we actually went to a Kroger and I picked up my favorite Good Culture cottage cheese. And if you've ever ate it, it's a probiotic cottage cheese, but it does say that it has live and active cultures in it. I am going to try and start cottage cheese with that. And I know it's of course pasteurized milk, but I'm just going to try it instead of having to buy a culture off of line, because like I said, I like stuff to taste like store-bought as close as it can. And that is the only type of cottage cheese that I actually like. So I would like for my homemade to taste as close as it can. So I am going to try that, and fingers crossed it works. And also I do want the health benefits of it being fermented and having the probiotics in it. So it is going to be a 24-hour version, so it is going to sit overnight. But instead of wrapping it in blankets and stuff, because that was what you have to do, is wrap it in a towel and blankets. So I'm going to do it in the Dutch oven, and this holds heat for a really long time. Like sometimes I'll simmer broth and leave it on low, turn it off for the night while we sleep, and then I'll come back down in the morning and it's still hot. So it holds heat really, really well. And I always get the comment of like, how do you know how to do all this? And it's honestly just research. You can figure out how to do anything, and it's not like I just woke up one day with all of this knowledge on how to do homesteading and all these different like tasks or chores, whatever you want to call them. But all you have to do is come into all of it with an open mind and a willingness to learn, because it is overall really simple. You can get the books if you want, but if you want like free versions of trying to learn, you can always try YouTube, and then blog posts also. Those are always free and very, very resourceful. So I usually start with the blog post and YouTube. But over the weekend, I did go see my mom, and she has a cheese making book. Like I said, she's made cheeses before, and she's making cheese right now with our milk. She was telling me about like the farmer cheese and the farmhouse cheese. The farmhouse cheese is a hard cheese, but the farmer's cheese is a soft cheese. So I may venture into that, but like I said, I really am eager to get to the hard cheeses. I want to get to that, I think, more than anything. So whenever I get the cultures and the rennet and stuff, I will start hard cheeses, but for now, it'll just be these. So to start by doing research a couple weeks before you're ready to actually begin it, and just start with what you have. If you don't have all of this special equipment and stuff, try and make it out of what you already have. There have been tons of cheese making videos that I've watched, and almost all of those people that are making hard cheeses at home are using what they already have in their kitchen. So like baking pans, cake pans, stuff like that. And they're using that as their cheese molds with some towels, and then they just put books or something like that on as weight. So don't go in and buy the hundreds of dollars of cheese presses if this is your first time. So that's not what I'm doing. When I venture into making hard cheeses, I will use what we already have here at home, and then we'll see how those wheels turn out, because I'm not going to waste money on a whole cheese setup if I'm not even going to enjoy the cheese. Because I have seen multiple homesteaders get into the raw milk and cheese making and stuff, and then they say that they don't like the cheese that it makes. So we will see, and we're just going to take it one day at a time and one cheese at a time. So today is just mozzarella and cottage cheese. So all I did was put my milk in here, and I am using whole milk, so it does have the cream on it still. It's not been skimmed. So I just shook it up really good to get that cream incorporated. And I'm going to heat this to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and then after that, then I will add in my 7 tablespoons of vinegar, which I have right here in this bowl. So once it heats to that, then I'm going to put the 7 tablespoons of vinegar in, and then just put the lid on and let it sit for 5 minutes. And I do just want to say that every single video that I found out there was completely different. So some of them only heated up to like 60 degrees, and then they put in their rennet and citric acid and stuff. So it depends on what recipe that you choose to follow. So it truly just depends on the method that you pick. If you're using vinegar, then you should be fine to do it this way. But if you're using citric acid and rennet, that does get heated differently. So you will have to find a different video to watch. After it heated to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, I used a slotted spoon to scrape the top of the curds and try to get them to clump together, because they're pretty loose and they're full of liquid at this point. So I pushed them up against the pot just to try and get some of that out to get it to form a ball. I did the best I could, and then I put my gloves on because it is hot. So I grabbed it and squeezed as much of the milk out as I could, and that way it would form a ball better. And then I put it back on the burner and heated it up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, removed it from the heat, and then that's whenever I began my stretches and just forming it into a ball until it was shiny. I will type out the recipe down below for the mozzarella cheese, but the cottage cheese, it still needs some work, so I'm not going to share the recipe yet because it didn't work out at first, and then I ended up adding some rennet to it and it worked. So that I'm not going to share yet, but I will share the mozzarella recipe down below.
As you can see here, the mozzarella has pink specks on it, but it's nothing bad. It is just Redmond real salt. Some of the videos that I watched, some people salted it and some people did not salt their whey before, whenever they were heating it up to 160 degrees. And I will just say be careful with the salt because it does all cling to the cheese. So whatever you put in the pot, it is going to stick to your cheese. So I'll add a disclaimer down there in the recipe below, but I think I added probably a tablespoon of salt because some people have said to add 1/8 of a cup to a 1/4 cup, and I did a tablespoon, playing it safe, and it still was a lot of salt in the cheese. So it just really depends on how much you want, but also you have to remember that this is fresh cheese and there's no salt added, so you do need to add some.
The mozzarella cheese has been sitting in here for at least probably 15 minutes now. So I'm going to take it out and then just dry it off in this towel and put it in an airtight container in the fridge. It definitely made a smaller ball than I was intending, but I did only do ½ gallon. So next time I probably will do a gallon just to get more of it. But overall it was super easy. So I just now finished the mozzarella and got that put in the fridge. I cleaned up my pot and cleaned all my utensils because I didn't know if the vinegar would counteract with like the cheese cultures or anything that are in the cottage cheese. So I did go ahead and clean everything really well. But I'm just going to be using, the recipe calls for a gallon. But I'm going to do a ½ gallon just so I'm not wasting cheese in case this doesn't work out because I have no idea. I've not been able to find any video that uses cottage cheese like from the grocery store to make more, but I'm just gonna try it because this does say that it has live and active cultures, so I'm hoping it does, even though it's processed. And this one is just the low fat classic, so they do have another one, but this one was my favorite, so this is what I got. And there are so many ways to make cottage cheese, but like I said, I just want mine to be the grocery store kind. I want it to taste as close to this as I can get it. So this, you can totally make this out of like curdled milk. So I'm not sure if this works the same as like the grocery store. I'm learning all of this the same time that you guys are, but you can let your milk set and like pretty much spoil, but there's a fine line between like spoiled and like curdled. So you go by the smell, but it's whenever it separates and it gets that yellow liquid at the bottom and then it like turns thick up top. So you can make cottage cheese that way without any cultures and stuff. You can also do it with vinegar, just like how I did that mozzarella. You can do it with vinegar and then add a little bit of salt if you want. But all those videos that I've watched, everybody says that it does not taste like store-bought cottage cheese. It's different, and I really want it to taste like what I know. So we're just gonna try this, and like I said, I have no idea if this is gonna work, and we're really just winging it on the time too. I'll probably check it just maybe at like 6 hours or something. And like I said, with fermented cottage cheese or like probiotic cottage cheese, you're supposed to like wrap it in a blanket and like let it sit, kind of like you did with yogurt like years ago whenever everybody was making it. Now people do it in the Instant Pot. But I'm gonna do it in the Dutch oven, so I'm gonna try and open it maybe just once just to check it, and then if it's not done, then I'll wait the full 24 hours just because I don't want it to lose its heat. But this does seem like a pretty streamlined process. All you do is heat your milk, add in your cultures is what you're supposed to put in, and rent it. I'm not going to. I'm just going to put in cottage cheese, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it works. And you're going to let it sit for 24 hours. Like I said, I'm probably going to check mine around 6 hours and go from there.
Making cottage cheese and mozzarella are both very simple recipes, and they can seem intimidating. That's why I never tried it before, but it is so simple to make. So I will be making it more often, and as soon as we run out, I'm sure I will make more. But I did mess up with this cottage cheese because you put your milk in and your culture and your rennet at the same time. So I only put the culture in, and I should have, was the cottage cheese in this case. And I should have went ahead and put in a rennet tablet, but I didn't want to use them because, I don't know, I've heard some mixed reviews on the Junket brand rennet tablets. So I was trying to not use those until I got animal rennet, but I did have to go ahead and use those later in this video. You'll see I used it the next day actually because it still had not set up. But if you want to do this, do it at your own risk, just because I don't know if it's going to work out. I need to try it more. But I put the cottage cheese in and brought it up to 80 degrees. And at this point, when I put the cottage cheese in, I should have went ahead and put a rennet tablet in also, and then put the lid on it and let it sit for 24 hours and come back to it, and then finish the process the next day. But since I didn't do that, then I ended up putting the rennet tablet in it the next day. So in the end, it did end up working out. I just did the steps out of order compared to what they should have been done in, but it still ended up tasting really good. I added extra cream and salt to it, but it needs to sit in the fridge and marinate. I literally just finished filming the video and came to edit it so I could get it up for you guys. So I do want to let it sit before I give my final conclusion on it, but I will update you guys in a later video on how we're liking it. But if there's any cottage cheese left over from this batch that I make, I'm going to save a little bit. And then, because that's the point, is to get away from having to buy cultures and just always have it on hand. So that's my goal anyways. I don't want to have to rely on cultures. So I want to keep a little bit of this cottage cheese every time that I just made and try to make it into a new batch. Hopefully that makes sense. But if I don't know if I need to add another rennet tablet next time, I'm just going to have to experiment with it. This is all new to me. So I'm truly learning in real time right along with you guys. If you guys are trying to make cheeses, I'm right there with you guys learning. But I will share what I learn and any of the processes that I find that work and what don't. That way, if you guys are learning the same time as me, you can learn with me. At this point, it was the next day, and I opened up the pot expecting it to be hardened on top, and it was not. So I went ahead and brought it up to 100 degrees, added in a dissolved rennet tablet, and then I put the lid on it and let it set for an hour. After an hour, I came back and it was set just exactly how it was supposed to be. So I started breaking it up, and then this is where I did it out of order. You're not supposed to heat it twice to 100 degrees, so this is like, don't follow this part of the recipe, but I had to reheat it to 100 degrees and break up those curds and separate the whey from it. You can see that it's starting to around the edges, but this is where you start to form your curds. You stir it however much based on the size of curds you want, and you just want to make sure that it's not burning in the bottom of the pot. I strained it using cheesecloth, and I let it sit there for probably about 2 or 3 minutes, and it was getting really dry on top, so I stirred it and tried to get some more of the liquid off, but it wasn't draining like I wanted it to. So I ended up just squeezing the cheesecloth until the amount of liquid came out that I wanted to. And then I put it in the jar, put it in the fridge actually, just to get cool, because I wanted to taste it and see if it needed cream added to it. And it did. So I added probably a 1/4 cup of cream to it because it was very dry after this process. And then I added probably a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to it. And now we have cottage cheese, and I have tried it. It does taste good, but I'm not exactly sure if I absolutely love it, but I just need it to set and come together more because the cream and it are not like combined yet. Essentially, the cream and the curds need to incorporate and achieve that creaminess that you get in store-bought cottage cheese. So I'm just letting it chill in the fridge while I edit this video, and hopefully I can update you guys in the next video on how we're liking the cottage cheese. But that is going to be it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys will like and subscribe.